Hey guys, so as you may notice, we are outside right now, and that is because there are people in my house, and I am an embarrassing human being, and I don't want them to hear me speak. So yeah, that's why we're outside, and why I'm all sweaty and gross looking. Let's get right to it. So, once more, I am in Boston, and I don't have the majority of the books I read, but you should be used to that professionalism on this channel. Anyway, so the books I do have are this book, which I didn't read, and this book, which I did read, but I read 5 books in total. But so the books I read that I don't have are Becoming by Michelle Obama, or if you would please, Becoming Michelle Obama. Good name, right? Don't you love that? And then there is Jurassic Park by Michael something. He's famous though. That one, you know, that one you can find. And the third one is, what the fuck? Oh, Monstress. So I read volume 1 and 2 of Monstress, but I don't have those volumes, but I did just buy volume 3. That's what comes after 1 and 2. So I did just buy volume 3. So when I'm talking about Monstress, I'll be holding up this volume that I have not yet read, but it's really about volumes 1 and 2. And then I also read Little Fires Everywhere, which was just made into a... Actually, it might not have been just made into a show. I might have just heard about it. So the first book we're going to talk about is Becoming Michelle Obama. So this book... Okay, I actually liked this book. I liked this book a lot. It was like shockingly good. Like, you know when you like there are a lot of politicians I like. No, that's a dumbass statement. Who the fuck likes politicians? No, what I mean is that you know, like, there's people you respect and you like, but you just know they're not going to be good writers. That's not what they do. Why would they be good writers? Michelle Obama was a lawyer and then a first lady. Like, why would she be good at creative writing? Well, plot twist, she fucking is. She's really fucking good. Because this book, you get invested in this book, you get invested in the characters, which are real people, you get invested in her, the main character, which is Michelle Obama. She's a good character. Very, very well developed. Yeah, and you get invested in that hot hunk of a man, Barack. You know, it's really fucking good. Like, I was genuinely surprised how good this book was. Her writing, okay, so I actually dropped this book. I read like 1 chapter like months ago, and then I dropped it because I was like, this is too boring, it's 400 pages. And I picked it up again recently, and I read the whole thing, and it was so good. So, like, her life story and her, like, the insight she comes to from her experiences are actually, like, really fucking good. So the book goes all the way from, like, her childhood to after she leaves the White House, so after Trump is elected. So yeah, it's actually a pretty comprehensive life story in 400 pages. But yeah, no, so I would actually really recommend people reading this, just because, like, the insight she comes to about her life and about society as a whole and about... Okay, I actually can't get mad at traffic because I'm the head ass who's outside in Boston. Like, this is my bad, this isn't their bad, but we're still gonna clear out this truck. I think some of the highlights were her thirsting after Barack, the proposal with Barack, everything she had to say about Trump, and especially when she entered the White House, like, about the Clintons, like, just her as this person who grew up in a completely different economic and social situation, being thrust into Washington with all these very different suburban white, you know, like, wives whose sole purpose is being a wife, and just her experiences with that. They're just told very well, and you get so invested in her and Barack's relationship, and she is critical of the relationship and the times he wasn't able to be a family man, and it's just overall a good, I don't know if I would say a good time. It's a worthwhile time. 4 stars. Check it out. I bought it used for like $2. You can buy it used for me for 50 cents if you want. I don't care. Anyway, just, you know, get this book, read this book, enjoy Becoming Michelle Obama. Okay, second book I read, Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. We're gonna go with that. We're gonna say that's his last name now. Anyway, so I just saw this movie with my mom on a drive-in. I'd seen it earlier, but, like, I just saw it again. And then I decided to read the book. And then I read the book. You know, these stories I tell, they're just so thrilling. Anyways, okay, so this book, it's really fucking good, but it's super scientific. There's a lot more scientific mumbo jumbo. There's a lot more mathematics. There's a lot more actual science. It's very different from the show in, like, very important thematic ways. The movie in very important thematic ways. I would say one of the big ones is John Hammond in the movie is like this lovable, eccentric billionaire, and in the book he's like, he's not malicious, he's just the embodiment of capitalism. Yeah, so he's malicious. He's immature and childish and eccentric, but he's also evil and money hungry and greedy, and he is a very realistic billionaire, I would say. So yeah, he literally talks about how like, oh, but we have to open the park for the children. Well, the rich ones anyway. You know, like he doesn't actually give a fuck. So I thought that was really cool. And all the science stuff made sense. I was reading this and I was like, I don't understand what the fuck's going on. This guy's so smart. I got 2 brain cells. He's got like at least 100. That's pretty good. He's doing well. So yeah, that was Jurassic Park. I would say the one thing is the mumbo jumbo makes it less like, I don't know, so it's like more scientifically interesting and it requires a lot more brain power than the movie does. So it's less of like a horror movie and it's more of like an actual exploration of what this type of how this type of situation would happen and what would happen when it did happen. That didn't make any sense. Basically, the thing with Jurassic Park is just that because it's a lot more STEM and like mumbo jumbo-y, it's less of a thriller. Like they don't even get to the dinosaurs until like a couple hundred pages in. So it's like a lot less of a like we gotta survive this evil park, and a lot more like of the scientific base. They do actually have to survive the evil park, and a lot more people die than in the movie. Wait, okay, like literally the book like opens with a baby getting eaten, so you can see it's just a different tone. It's a completely different vibe than the movie. Another change they made is that the romantic relationship between the 2 doctors is not there at all. She's actually his student, and yeah, so the characters are less designed to make like a filling movie, like, oh, he learns to like children, and more about like, you idiots, you are leading to the end of society. Scientists will end the world if they're not stopped, and sometimes progress isn't always a good thing. So it's a lot more about his theme than like the individual characters, but the individual characters are also kind of interesting. Anyway, so I would give that one 4 stars. It's not as much of an easy read. It's not like a turn your brain off type of read. You kind of have to think about everything it says because there's a lot of fucking science, and I'm not good at science. But like the overall, the actual, like I feel like I learned. You know, I read that book and I like learned, which is good. So I would say, you know, it's quarantine time. You should read this book, and then you'll learn a lot about dinosaurs and a lot about how the world is gonna end, which is always good to know with another possibility because we got a couple going on right now. Anyway, 4 stars. So the next book I read is actually 2 books, and neither of them are this one. But Monstress volumes 1 and 2. You can see I guess I'll show you the art here. The art is really good in this series. Like, it's gorgeous. I will say the first book was confusing as shit. I actually read it a while ago, and then I got the second one, so I went back and reread the first one because I didn't remember anything. And I would say this was like 3. I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars because the art is just too good to downgrade. But the story is like really complicated and confusing, and it's definitely edgier than it needs to be. Like, you know, when story, like, it's, I don't know, like it compares itself to Game of Thrones, or Ally Books here just compares it to Game of Thrones, and it's really not. It's really like Lord of the Rings meets furries, I would say is more accurate. It's like super dark and gory and like anime-y, I would say. But the actual story is like kind of convoluted. The second book is also good. The second book I think is better. It's a little less confusing, but there's just so much going on, and there's too many characters to keep track of, and you will get confused as shit. But I would just stick with it and enjoy the ride because there are some really neat scenes and some really neat art to enjoy. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna stick with it because I do think it's like worth reading, and I do enjoy reading it. I just wish the story was a little more streamlined, but yeah, 3.5 stars. They're very quick reads, so, you know, check it out. Okay, so last but definitely not least is the title of this video, I guess. I actually have so much to say on this book. I genuinely am probably going to make a second video on this book. And the show, I'm watching the show right now, so I'm going to make a video like compare and contrast. So far the book is a lot better than the show, but I'm only on like episode 2. But yeah, okay, so this book, oh my god, this book, I haven't read anything quite like this, I think maybe even ever. It's phenomenal. Like, the characters are so good. So basically the concept of this book is actually really fucking hard to explain. But the concept of this book, or I guess the plot, is like about a custody battle. The concept of this book sounds so dry and boring, but it's actually so good. I'm trying to like think how to. So basically, this poor single mother and her child move into a house owned by this rich suburban family, and then the plot happens through them, but it's not about them. So there's a custody battle involving a close friend of the wealthy family versus a close companion of the poorer family. And yeah, but it's really more about motherhood. Like, that is definitely the clear theme of this book, and I like it was so good. I was so invested. Every single character in this book is so well done. Like, okay, so for example, with the wealthy family, there's a lot of basic ass ways you could take this. Like, oh, they're racist, they suck. In the book, it's not really clear if the poor family is a different race. I read this book the whole time thinking that they were Asian, but in the show they're black. So, you know, I don't know. She never actually says for certain, but I thought of them as Asian, and Miss Richardson as white. This book is like hard to talk about because what makes it so good doesn't sound good saying it out loud, but it's basically just the characters. So Mia is kind of like a modern day Atticus. Like, she is so like stern and steady, but she's also very complicated and interesting, and every character is so like multifaceted and interesting in a way that I really haven't seen in a long time. So usually in a book like this, the rich white family would just be racist and terrible, whatever, but they're not. They're actually a lot more similar to the type of neoliberal racism as in Get Out, the whole I would have voted for Obama for a fourth term, like that type of racism, which is much more interesting and I think more valuable than the type of racism that's like in Hidden Figures or that's often portrayed in movies. Because Mrs. Richardson and this wealthy family forces wealthier, privileged suburban readers to confront their own biases and to confront their own, like, not generically racist ideas, but they're just, like, cultural differences. Mrs. Richardson is a really good character. Again, similar to that, I would have voted for Obama in the fourth. Like, she considers herself a philanthropist. She really does consider herself a good person, and kind of on the surface she is. She is pretty complex, and they're all very complex. All of her children, she has 4, privileged children, and they're all very different people, and they're all very well fleshed out. I don't know, this author just really just got me so invested in all of these characters and their dynamics. Like, they were like just doing regular ass shit, like, oh, they're hanging out, please tell me more about them hanging out. You just get so invested in everything they're doing because the characters are just so good, and the theme in this book is so good. Motherhood, the way they do it. So basically, Baby, which is a co-worker of Mia, is this immigrant Chinese woman. She leaves her baby at a fire station, and it gets adopted by the McCulloughs, which is a white family that's friends with the Richardsons, and but then the Chinese woman wants her baby back, and a custody battle ensues. And I really can't talk about this without spoilers. That's the problem. Okay, I'm just gonna make this really simple. The motherhood theme is expressed in so many different ways, from Miss Richardson to Mia to Baby to the McCulloughs. Like, it's just and to even to some of the other characters that I can't list because that would be a spoiler. It's just expressed in so many different ways, and it's such a complex ideas that's going on. It's such a complex idea because a lot of like, you would look at that, you're like, okay, so there's this immigrant Chinese lady, right? And she gave her baby up, and she was very desperate. We know she was desperate, but we also know with 100% like that the white family would give her a better life. Okay, the white family is super wealthy, they're very privileged, they have so many more resources, they have a mother who could be with her all the time, who doesn't have to work. So it's like, I don't know, it's just so, but then there's like, it's not her kid. At the end of the day, it is just not her kid. And as someone who's adopted, this theme was so interesting to me because they really touch into the fact that this baby is Chinese, and the mother, the adopted mother, is white, and they really hone in on, like, is there something that this family, no matter how much love and money that they have, that they would just never be able to give this daughter. And the author doesn't give you like a clear answer. She just poses this question many different times in this book, like, what makes a good mother? Who is a mother? And she just never quite answers it. She gives all these different answers, and then you can form your own answer at the end of the book. But it just, this book just stuck with me. I just didn't want it to end. I was really sad when it ended. And that's my only criticism. So the book opens with a house burning down, and then kind of like in Big Little Lies, where it opens with a murder, and you're like, who got murdered? Who did the murder? This one, the house is burning down, like, who did the burning down the house? And the answer is a little disappointing. I don't know. It doesn't work as a mystery. It 100% is a character study. The mystery is not really that. They kind of say who it is at the beginning, and then it's exactly who everyone thinks it is. I don't know. The ending just didn't. It just didn't quite land. It just kind of like ended. You know, like there was no conclusion. There was no like. I'm okay that there was no answer to the question the authors posed, because she did actually give you a lot of different answers, but I don't know, it wasn't like a wow ending, you know. It just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess it's over, you know. I don't know, it kind of let me down. I would say it's like 4.5 stars. If the ending came through, it would 100% be 5 stars. I would say everything up until the last like 30 pages is 5 stars. The characters are just so phenomenal. The writing is so interesting. The themes are really well done, and the message is so good. I am definitely going to do a video on this as soon as I finish watching the show. As an adopted person, it was just so interesting to see these concepts, because like, I don't know, personally I've never felt like I was missing something, you know. Like I've never felt like this idea that there's something that the real mother could have given the child that the white family just never could. Okay, I will say it's different. I was adopted by 2 Indian Americans, so first generation Indians who were raised in America, so, you know, in race adoption, even though it was an international adoption, so it's definitely different. But I just think that's so interesting. Like, I just love the discussions that happen in this book, and I'm dying to talk about it more, and I will in my other video. But yeah, no, I highly recommend this book. And also, from what I've seen from the show so far, I would not recommend watching the show before reading the book. It will just not do it for you as much, and it might ruin some of the good parts. So I would just say read the book first, then watch the show, and then watch me complain about it. Anyway, so that's what I read this time around. This video took me a really long time because I'm lazy as shit, and that's the only reason. Anyway, so the first book I read was Becoming Michelle Obama. Shit, it's writing. We're gonna do this really fast. It's gonna be a speed run because otherwise it's not gonna go well. Okay, really quick. Becoming Michelle Obama. 4 stars. Really good book. Really came through. If it was a ghostwriter, it was a very good ghostwriter. Would recommend reading it, but it is very long. Okay, number 2, Jurassic Park. Scientific, lots of science. Very, very, very much science fiction and not thriller. Very good though. I really did feel like I learned from it, but it's not a turn your brain off type of read. 4 stars. Okay, Monstress. Confusing. Edgy. Confusing and edgy. 3.5 stars. Okay, last of all, Little Fires Everywhere. By far my favorite read. Genuinely love this book. Will be taking it to college and probably will be reading it again, and will be doing another video on it, but still getting 4.5 stars because that ending just didn't come through tragically. Alright, that's it. We read. Good job, us. So I just want to take a moment to tell you I've linked some Black Lives Matter videos down below, in which if you watch the videos, all the money from the ad rolls is donated to Black Lives Matter. So I would just recommend, if you're not really interested in the videos, just open them in a new tab, mute it, and go about doing whatever you're doing, which is not watching Little Fires Everywhere. I know you haven't read the book yet. Don't do it. Don't disappoint me. Anyways, I hope everyone is staying safe and having a decent... You're not having a decent time. This sucks. Having an okay time, and hopefully this video finds you in good health, and that you enjoy reading Little Fires Everywhere, because you should. You should read it. Goodbye.